Morning, Ronald. How you doing, buddy? Good, man. Thank you. You guys had a game last night, right? How'd it go? That sucks. Did you do good? Say what? Carrying the weight, bro, you know?
Last year I taught 418. No, you did. Yes, I did. And I taught periods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm dancing. So I remember you walked in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
So,
6 feet, 6 feet. No.
this is the only kid in history that you successfully convinced me to do Harvard.
No, that's a good minute.
Remember when I also convinced people that I was leaving? Who's that?
Last year.
No. Did you try?
Dude, there are people down the guys talking
This kid has gone down and said, "Really?"
I'm the king of lies. What's your name? Brown shirt girl.
Daddy.
Gabby, I'm the king of lies.
So we're watching, remember she's really good.
I wouldn't believe him.
Because you're old history teacher.
Oh, yeah, you're not though.
So you think she is.
Old George
Could be.
Patches.
Distant relation. You never know.
The tap out.
So you're good. You keep him for a month. Who's done it? Oh, is she working remotely or?
Yeah.
Yeah. You still flying out?
Austin, how you doing? Good, buddy.
Yeah, there we go.
How you doing, Chris?
What,
Good, man.
you tired on a food?
No. One of the things I've done for
Good. What's what?
Tony, how you doing, man?
Feel like you got any out of it?
Yeah.
Tony, you out there? No, you're good, man. All right. I think he's in my last class. I think that's what just happened.
Plus they have a meeting that my wife's family, they're called.
Yep.
Participation portion and
Heard.
it's rolling, right?
You say all right or right?
Already in.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jayla, how you doing?
So,
Did you get some stuff for me to look at yet?
Oh, yeah, I decided that
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, well, yeah, you don't even have to send it. I mean, I want to know what you're thinking.
Like every couple of days, I wanted to focus on one person.
Okay.
Specifically, I did something.
Yeah.
And I didn't decide all of them yet. But the first one I decided all I wanted to be is my mentor.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
because they play, they don't play the palm all that stuff. They play like the other one.
Good morning, Egypt. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
With the AD there.
Declan, good morning. Callie, good morning. How are you? Morning, Kavion. Ben, Layla, good morning.
That air is pretty good. The question I did wrong with this.
I can still yell at you, man. Still got power.
This is John.
What's up, John?
He's asked on the 45.
Oh, yeah. On the roster or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have asked about that quite a bit. Just can't let it go.
This is the goat.
Good morning, everybody.
Favorite musician of all
Favorite musician? That's tough for me.
time.
Zoom, what I want put in the chat box. What is your favorite musician of all time? Mr. Brunette's is, well, I won't. We'll get into that.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, I would say. I would say. Well, that's not what I was going to say.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know.
Liz Khalifa live like 6 times. But
Have you?
yeah, my wife, I married her when she was 22. I was 27 at the time.
Oh, Aiden, that was my answer yesterday. We talked about this in our department meeting. Taylor, how you doing? You said what?
Good.
What's your favorite music artist? You don't know? What are you listening to right now? Nothing? Can you take your earpods out then? Ooh. Some of these I do not know, which is not a big surprise. We got 20 people in here. I got like 10 answers. Favorite musical artist of all time, guys. Let's go. All right. Kurt Cobain, that's a great answer.
Who put that?
Kavion. That's a solid answer. Kanye West,
Obviously.
that was my I just said this, but we talked about this in our department meeting 2 days ago, and that was my answer. Tyler, the Creator, nice. I haven't listened to him in a few years. I haven't listened to any of his new stuff. Janae says don't have one. That's fine. Jack Stauber. How do you say that? Stauber? Is that a person? Is that a
Might be shitty to book failure.
why?
Because you're gonna identify how old you actually are.
Wow, man, they know. Bieber. I knew I'd get one Bieber. Damon Albarn. Tupac. Takaya, nice. The 2 Biebers? No, just one. J. Cole, good. Kiss. Wow. I was not expecting anybody to say Kiss. Jane Aiko, okay. Bob Marley, Tariq, coming in strong. These answers surprised me. I'm glad I asked. Gabby, what do you think? You have to look up your answer?
Oh,
Who's your favorite musical artist?
oh, Mr. Kitty.
Who's that?
It's,
Mr. Kitty?
yeah. It's not like it sounds like it's like one of those like little kids.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Who is it? What's he do? Is it a him or is it a group? I need to. All right. What's he do?
Um,
I know he makes music.
How am I supposed to explain
I don't. What kind of music does he make? All right, I'll give him a listen. Should I give him a listen, or do you think it's a waste of time? All right, I'll give him a listen. Austin, what about you? Lil Uzi, all right. After Dark by Mr. Kitty. Is that where I should start? After Dark? All right. Jayla, you don't? You're one of those people? I don't either. I do podcasts and stuff like as Mr. Brunette called me earlier, a nerd.
Whoa.
That was the word you used. Hey, man. Call me a nerd for listening to a philosophy podcast. Judgmental. Judgment. Lena Del Rey. Nice. Ronald. Whatever. For I guess for yeah, that's probably better. Damn. Yeah.
I just watched the
Michael Jackson, strong.
You watched it before? 13 and a half minutes long.
What is it?
The music video is Thriller.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
All right.
that's what happened to my wife. Was I watch music videos on YouTube. I'm nerdy.
All right, some good answers. Some answers I wasn't expecting as well, which is cool. All right. What are we doing today? This is a much better day than just me talking at you about Enlightenment thinkers. So what we're going to do today, everybody needs to get on Canvas. Everybody needs to get on February 4th, believe it or not. Enlightenment quotes table. Go ahead and open that up, and somebody give me a thumbs up when we've done that on Zoom, please. Just beat him at tennis then.
What did you say?
Chris Dick says that I should just beat you at tennis, which Chris, I might be able to beat him at something, but it's definitely, out of all things, tennis is going to be last on that list. I've played like 3 times in my life. All right, who's there? Who's on Canvas? People? Yeah, okay. All right, you are going to go to this page. You are going to download both this Enlightenment quotes and Enlightenment thinker quotes table. This is the table. This is the quotes. And what we're going to do, I'll have to do that Pear Deck one next period. It says Pear Deck on some of these. You can ignore it. What we're going to do after a couple minutes of me talking is go through these. Montesquieu, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Mary Wollstonecraft, and you're going to fill in your interpretation of each one of their quotes right here. There is no right answer. There is no answer that you're going to tell me that I'm going to say that's not what they're trying to say or that's incorrect. All I want is your best guess as to what they're trying to say, and we'll see where we get to. Hopefully we get a little bit farther than last class. We talked a little bit too much. So firstly, though, just a quick recap from this week and getting into next week. What was the Enlightenment? Simply put, it's that phrase right up there, that phrase right here. 18th century philosophical movement that advocated reason as the primary source of authority and legitimacy. What does that mean? Reason being, whoever's in charge of you better have a good reason to be in charge of you. Whoever is the president, whoever is the police, whoever is the fire department, whoever has a hand in giving you safety, giving you protection in this life from a government or knowledge standpoint as a teacher, they better have a good reason. That's what these guys were all about, was reason and the conducting of, the conducting of that reason that would pursue ultimately liberty, ultimately freedom, but first through a few different things. The first being the study of nature. They believed that nature was innately good, that knowledge was up to this point decided by the church, decided by religious organizations that could tell you what was true and what wasn't true. And they believed that that same truth could be found through nature and that the pursuit of God could be found through studying nature. This is going to lead to a few things, hopefully in their minds, happiness. What is happiness? You can ask 1,000 people, you get 1,000 answers. But happiness to these guys is living by nature, natural laws, and they believed eventually you would find perfection in yourself and perfection through nature that would lead you to happiness, both as an individual and as a society. And that kind of gets us into this progress aspect. Progress meaning everything comes in stages. So where we're at right now, if you remember Tuesday, we had a question about, you think today will be the same as yesterday or will be better, something to that effect. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Or are you neutral? That's what they're getting at, is they believe that all of this is a progression toward a greater purpose, to a greater end. And they believe that society and humankind at the same time could be perfected. And that if these ideas that they had were put into place, that perfection would be attained eventually. That perfection takes the form of liberty. Liberty being a society that's free, individuals that are free, people that can make their own decisions and do what they want to do without a church or a king telling them otherwise. The theme of most of these men, one woman as well in here, the theme of them is, a lot of them are from France. And what's going to happen in France decades later, and next week what we're going to talk about, is the French Revolution. Both the French Revolution and the American Revolution, the reason that they're revolutionary is they used philosophers' ideas to form a new government, which is crazy. Like that doesn't happen at this time, at any time really. So this idea that they're going to propose separation of powers and pursuit of individual liberty, these things are completely new on the scene. And then very short time later, really decades later, 100 years later, they are used to institute new forms of government that are based in individual liberties. All right, so these are the directions for today. Try and figure out the message of these Enlightenment thinkers. In the following slides, read the quote, attempt to find the deeper meaning or purpose of the quote. In class, we have a couple stations that we're going to be working through today, so you guys get to get up and walk around. Online, obviously, we don't have that luxury. So you are going to work through, I'm going to give you a couple examples too, but you're going to work through these slides, and they match up obviously with the table. So Montesquieu right here at the top, and you're going to give your interpretation. So one example, or two examples actually, is right here. An injustice to one is a threat made to all. Montesquieu, one of those French philosophers that we are getting into, we're talking about today, and that inspired future generations to upend their government. An injustice to one is a threat to all, made to all. So one example of an answer would be, any wrong committed by those in power toward an individual should be considered a crime to every individual. So if somebody's wronging Taylor, Gabby should be affected by that. Gabby should look at what's happening to Taylor and be like, that could one day happen to me. That could one day happen to my family. And just because right now it's happening to Taylor, that doesn't mean at one point in the future it's not going to happen to me. We should all be severely concerned with what's happening to other people, even if we don't agree with them, even if we think their ideas are stupid or wrong, because those in power might change one day, and the people in power might do those same things to us. Obviously, we saw in a good way this in the last year, in the summer. There's a better collective conscious, or a better collective effort of empathizing with Black Lives Matter, with African Americans in general, and people started to become more aware and more caring towards the treatment of those people by namely the police, but just those in power in general. All right, second example, Voltaire. It is forbidden to kill, therefore all murderers are punished unless they kill in large numbers and to the sound of trumpets. What does this mean? We all know murder is wrong on an individual level. How come it's wrong on an individual level, but then when it's done in the pursuit of war and the pursuit of power nowadays, and even then the pursuit of money and goods, why is that right? Why do governments get to say what's right and get to make those decisions when we as individuals do not, and agree that murder is wrong on an individual basis. So any of these answers will do. As I said, there's no correct answer. There's no wrong answer. I want everybody to fill all these in and be able to turn them in at the end of class. So do your best. If there's a word you don't understand or a phrase you don't understand, Google it. Be resourceful. Find a way to find out what that word means and look it up and try and do your best of figuring it out. Some are easier or more easy to understand on the surface than others. But I'm going to set a timer for 14 minutes. There's 7 of these. So 2 minutes for each, and then we're going to go ahead and get started, guys. If you have questions, send me a message. Other than that, good luck. All right, let's finish up here. We'll get through these. Hopefully, get us some extra time at the end as well. All right, first one is Montesquieu, French philosopher. He says, when the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person, there can be no liberty. What does that mean? Those of you on Zoom, you can say it out loud, or if you want, send in a chat.
I thought of it as like you can't make your own laws.
Okay. Who can't make their own laws?
Anybody?
So who's supposed to make law? Are we going to have laws, or do you think?
Well, we should have laws, but the people, they shouldn't like make laws that, I guess. I don't know how to explain that, but I know what to say.
Okay. Anybody else want to add on to? I think it was Declan that said that. The one right here. I think you guys are in the same. Yeah, Gabby.
I said like when I was thinking because this is legislative and
Yep.
executive powers. I said that if like there's too much power combination from different sides, then people will never have like freedom
Yep. Yeah. Why? I mean, for the obvious.
because like there'd be too much power to the school.
Yeah, centralized into one person, right? Yeah. So Gabby brings up legislative, executive. These are types of government or parts of government. Montesquieu was all about the separation of powers. So in his mind, there's the legislative who makes laws, what we would call Congress. You put your phone away, Taylor. There's the executive, which is like what the president is, governors, those type of things. And then there's the judicial, which obviously are courts. He wanted to propose that this all shouldn't be wrapped up in a king or a queen for obvious reasons, I think, to us, that people are inherently naturally biased. They're selfish sometimes, and they're wrong a lot of times too. So anytime that a single person has all the power, there can be no liberty. There can be no freedom. There can be no real ability for us individuals, the normal people, to be able to live our lives the way we want to live. Anyone want to add anything to that? We're moving on.
I just think that this is really like that because everyone, like you can't trust one person.
Yeah, and you can't have one person trust one person to make all the right choices. Even if they're a great leader, they're going to make mistakes. It's much better to have a system, and this was foreign at the time, obviously, to have a system that spreads out that power to many people instead of just a king or a queen or the aristocracy. All right, number two, the second one at least, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, another French guy. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. What do you mean by that? Right. Right. Yeah. And so Ronald says you're born free. You're born as a baby, as a child, seemingly without rules and without anybody putting restrictions on you. And it seems like the more you get older, the more you have these restrictions placed on you from other people. Anybody else on Zoom get something out of that or want to add anything? Or anyone in person? Yeah.
Like, I think like as people, like everyone, I think people are so born with this system, as they get older, you become more self-aware.
Right.
How to learn how you actually find actually.
That's great. Yeah. Jayla points out that those restrictions are always there. It's just you become more aware of them as you get older. That's a great way to put it too. Keep in mind what we were talking about a minute ago before we started this. Natural laws, they believe that nature was the ultimate guider or the ultimate way of discovering truth. So by nature, animals are free and we should have more freedom or at least the ability to make our own decisions. not be put into chains, as Rousseau would say, or to have government or king or church decide what's true or who is right and who is wrong. All right, Mary Wollstonecraft, maybe the first individual woman we've talked about. I haven't been here your whole class, but this might be the first one that actually gets to share an opinion and gets maybe not accepted in her time, but at least gets celebrated as time has moved on. She says, strengthen the female mind by enlarging it, and there will be an end to blind obedience. What do we think? Yeah.
Okay, I think it's not, I don't think it's exactly the same, but like an idea I have is, like, I've been, studying a lot in the capitalism and patriarchy, and, a lot of women, they, like, it's like choice feminism, they think empowerment is the individual, and really part of the group,
Yeah.
and you really have to make women more self-aware that you can't just be empowered simply because you do the choice and then people, because you can't really start a movement based on one person. It has to be a group going against something, but also you don't always have to go against these ideas because it's going to take a really long time to abolish. So not everything that has to be empowerment, you can't do. Okay.
No, it's all right.
Not everything a woman does has to be empowerment to other women for it to be valid.
Yeah, that's great. I wish you guys, I don't know if you can hear her on Zoom. I'm not even going to try and recreate what she said because I won't be able to, but Jayla brings up a lot of good points. Correct me if I'm paraphrasing wrong, but it's not, as individuals, we're not able to redefine what the system is and what system we live under. So what Mary Wollstonecraft, I think Jayla's getting at a little bit, is in order to strengthen this female mind, it's going to take, or in order to end this blind obedience and for everybody to follow the system as is, we need everyone involved. We need everyone on an equal playing field. At this time, obviously, women weren't educated. They weren't allowed to get into science for the most part, and into there's like societies of intellectuals that would meet that were all men. So Mary Wollstonecraft in her time was very much vocal, even though she actually in her writings said, the main job of a woman is motherhood, which nowadays is very anti-feminist even, but she's working within a time, right? So in her time, all she wants is an opportunity to be able to take care of herself, an opportunity to work, to go to school, to learn the same as men do. And her main point was, you aristocratic men, you intellectuals that think you're so smart, that think you have it figured out, where the government has this like hold on all our lives and we all have reason, so we should control ourselves. Well, women are a part of mankind too. Women have reason as well. So women should have that same level of freedom and ability. And you guys are hypocrites yourself because you don't extend that same freedom to us. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there's way more standards put on it, and that's like societal position. There's way more standards put on, I think, women in a lot of ways. Physical attraction. Read her quotes, Jayla. I think you'll get, especially in context with like what time they live in. I think you'll get a lot out of it. But yeah, we'll move on in the interest of time. But we could talk about her and what she had to say for really a week straight. John Locke: if a government fails in its obligation to protect natural rights, the people have the right to overthrow that government. Somebody on Zoom, type it in. We're going to talk about it in class, but I want at least 2 answers on Zoom to be able to talk to you guys as well, to get you involved. Gabby.
Well, so when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about it as like, if the government fails to protect you, or like a leader fails to protect you in a certain way, then those people are allowed to overthrow the leader if they're not doing the job.
Yeah. So yeah, John Locke was very. Gabby says if a government or leader, somebody in position of power, isn't doing their job to protect you, that person, you have the right to overthrow that person. He wasn't a violent person at all, but he did call for violence, or at least call for the overthrowing of government, which is violent usually, if they didn't meet their standards. That's what the role of government in these guys' minds would be, and acknowledging the fact, okay, we can't all be completely free. That's chaos, but we need some sort of systems, and what that system should be. We'll get into this with Adam Smith in a minute too, in an economic way. What that system should be some sort of protection. Somebody says if the government fails their main purpose, then the people can just overthrow it. Chris, that's great. If the government can't protect the people, then the people can take matters into their own hands. Kavion, that's another great way to say it. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Anybody want to add anything before we move on? I think this one's probably one of the more straightforward, like if they don't do their job, you can overthrow them type things. All right, Adam Smith, right on cue. He says, it is not from the kindness of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. What does he mean by that? Taylor, you have anything? No? Yeah. I'm going to add some context. When go ahead, but I'll add some context and might clear up some things. Yeah, like that's what should be the way, right? But Adam Smith, the reason he's important, a very quick synopsis, is he is not the founder of capitalism, but he wrote a book that in his mind, I can't think of the name of the book at the moment, but it was about capitalistic choices where the system right now, a baker can make bread, they're not really going to see any benefit from that. In his mind, to be able to make money from these goods that are sold actually benefits them. And so when he says it's not from the kindness of the butcher, the brewer, the baker, it is out of the regard of their own interest, they make money off that. They get something out of that. And so while it's great and good to have these systems that it's like, okay, we should all be left alone and let us do whatever we want, he had the laissez-faire attitude of the government not getting involved in our own affairs and letting us make money. Don't overtax us. Don't do this. There's very few basic rights that we need. And if we get those, then people overall will be happier. Somebody says they don't make this stuff because they are kind. They make it for us because that is what they are interested in. That is a good way to put it too. That's something, you know, if somebody's passionate about something, making art, making whatever, we live in a society now where people can make money off their art. People can make money off their music and playing sports even. So Anaya, that's a good point in terms of that is how we get interested in it. That is how we are able to push everyone's interest in it as well. All right, Dennis Diderot, man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. What is, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was gonna say that I kind of thought about it as like, people won't be free until like maybe like the church and state are almost separated because on this time like the church had a lot of like power over people, like governmental power, and the king was usually the weakest. So like,
right.
I think that he was kind of saying that these people should exploit what they believe in on other
people. That's great. Yeah. Gabby says that a lot of these kings were religious themselves. So the separation of the church and state is a huge part of this because inevitably there's going to be some overlap there of whatever religion the king happens to believe in. That happens to be to the benefit of everyone who follows that religion. You see that today even. 4 minutes? Okay. So you see that today in certain, especially Islamic countries, that there's certain sects of Islam. Iraq before the Iraq War was like that. where this doesn't matter. One of the populations got all the benefit of the leader being of that religion. All right, Voltaire, wild man Voltaire, French philosopher. I have issues with that word. He says, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." Give me 1 second. Let's see if somebody on Zoom. Just hold on to it. You'll be allowed to talk. Guys, anybody on Zoom?
3 words.
Lila likes talking.
No, okay, that's not, oh, no, that's great. What is he trying to say in 3 words? Bingo.
Boom.
Good job, Paul.
Boom. 3 words, guys. That's all it takes. If you look at the chat, there's a certain incentive to talking as well.
I have one.
Yes, please.
So it's like he's saying, like, even though he may disagree with it, he'll still stand for it because people deserve the right to speak their mind.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, it's very good. I like yeah, Cartier nailed it, man. The 3 words, freedom of speech. I think Lana was the one that talked before that. Sorry if not. But yeah, both those are very good. Freedom of speech, and you should be concerned with the harm or the injustice of your neighbor, of your fellow person, because that can be applied to you as well. All right, that is it. Thank you, guys. Make sure we're going to go over this last slide, but that's it for that activity. So what do these things have an impact on? Impact of the Enlightenment. These, as I've said earlier, these are going to go on to affect the revolutions that take place all around the world at the next hundreds of years. The American Revolution first, French Revolution right after that, Haitian as well. Like, these things have a very direct correlation, separation of powers, the freedom of church and the separation of church and state, rather, civil liberty, the ability to laissez-faire type of economics where we can make our own decisions and make our own money. We don't owe it to a king, or we're not doing mercantilism where we owe all these things to a single system or a single person, family. That's where this goes, and that's where this was unheard of, and we all benefit from this, whether we realize that or not, in big and small ways. They had this belief of human progress, a perfection of human progress, an ability to perfect society. And as you can see, we don't have time to get into this too much, but this is what results, is the abolition of slavery, promote education, social equality. These things have a very real effect. Now, we can be upset, and we should be upset about founding fathers, about people that were in power even later, saying that they believed in equality of men and yet owning slaves. We can be upset about that, but that doesn't mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose the essence of these lessons that they wanted to portray, and that we've taken as with the abolition of slavery, promoting education for all. That's what's resulted in these things. And I think we can all agree that's been for the betterment of the world. A secular world outlook, no longer looking at the world through the lens of God who is ran through a king or through a church, importance of individual. Yeah, so we'll get into that more later. Thank you guys for paying attention very well today. Turn in those documents on Canvas, please. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day. Say what?
You gotta show Mr. Record the receipt.
Yeah.
And then we can buy what then do. Thank you. All right, you get the. This video, guys. For a while. All right, John. Hey, tomorrow.
Have a good day, guys.
Crenshaw,
Yes.
this is John, like I told you earlier.
What's up, man?
I've known his sister family for, I don't know, 10 years. And I believe St. John Sergeant is in fifth grade still. Senior, high academic, super college scholarship for hockey.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
And his mom was PTO president and blah, blah, blah. So he's pretty, he can take care of himself.
Cool. All right.
Definitely after passion. Okay. All right. I'll see you next week, John. Why are you a B? Come on, Mark. That's a great question. Hey, no sense at all. Oh, nice.
They only had a rod and a hook. They didn't have a weight or a bottom, so I got a rod. I just
I was gonna say,
Taylor, Abby, and Naya, are you there?
Man, you should have called me. I would offer you some advice. Maybe use like shrimp or something that's found in the